Birnam Wood is the third novel from Booker Prize-winning author Eleanor Catton, and it's her first foray really into the thriller genre. And this book, though it's called Birnam Wood, which is taken from Shakespeare, this is not a retelling of any Shakespearean play. This is an original story, and I think Eleanor Catton herself has said she's not particularly keen on retellings anyway. So this follows what's classed as a guerrilla gardening group called Birnam Wood, as in the title of the story. And this gardening group is sort of undeclared, sometimes criminal, philanthropic organisation that uses spare ground, unclaimed ground, ground that's underused, and plants crops, and then reaps those crops and either sells them to make a profit or feed the group. And they've been struggling for quite a few years to break even, and we follow Mira and Shelley, who are two of Mira's one of the founding members of the group, and Shelley's one of the longer term members of the group. And we find Tony comes in the story well, who was a founder member, has been away, has come back, and the relationship of those three and the challenges they face we get into. And we also find that the story is quite slow paced, so we spend a lot of time beginning understanding their relationship, understanding sort of the history of the group, I suppose, to a certain extent, understanding how the group works. These are very idealistic young individuals, and it's interesting seeing them debate their idealism. We also then have this fate that Mira comes across this opportunity where there's been a landslide and there's land which is potentially available for them to use, unofficially, illegally, of course, and she goes to explore it. And this is not really spoiled because this is very early on. She meets the billionaire Robert Lemoyne, and we then get his story. We also meet a couple of other characters, the Dervishes, who are the landowners of the actual land that the billionaire Robert Lemoyne is trying to buy, and the guerrilla gardening group is looking to plant their crops to make some money, and this is an opportunity for them. Now, as I say, this is very slow in the first half of the book. It's a lot about the relationships, the interactions of these main characters and how they build. And really, it doesn't become a thriller until there's a death, or an unexpected death, I should say, that really then starts driving the plots, and everyone's manipulations and plans are sort of thrown a bit out of whack, and it's who can recover to get what they want from what is happening. And it comes to quite a climatic conclusion, I will say that. But the thriller aspect is very slow at the beginning. It ramps up, and the sort of turmoil and turbulence really kicks off at the end, and we have quite a climactic finish. The problem, I'd say, the issues I have with this book is the billionaire Robert Lemoyne is very two-dimensional. He's very cartoonish villain in that sense. He's not really developed. The other three characters are more developed. You get to see them a lot more, and you understand their idealism and also the challenges of their idealism as well, which is quite an interesting part of the book. But it's very slow. There's lots of action, and you felt almost like two separate books in that sense, the way it suddenly kicks off. But my main issue was that the villain of the piece was very much a cartoon villain in the billionaire, and that spoiled what would have been or could have been a really good book. So this book honestly isn't going to stick with me. We have, I remember it because I've made this video of it, but it's not a book that's going to stick with me a long term. It's, you've got a billionaire trying to build a bunker. It's all based in New Zealand as well, which I think if you're a New Zealander or more au fait with the politics in New Zealand, you'll probably see a lot of connections to the storyline. American billionaires buying up land in New Zealand. I know all the story, certainly in New Zealand, under previous governments. I know Eleanor Catton has come out against certain policies of the then, was it Keys government in New Zealand, and a lot of right-wing commentators came out against her because she said something against the government. But I'm not au fait with New Zealand politics. There's a lot in there that maybe didn't hit as hard as it would do if you were more aware of those political process in New Zealand and the decisions being made there. There's also a connection broader for the global piece of the environment and the importance of the environment, taking care of the environment, and who ownership of that as well, which does, is interesting. I just think the pacing and the storytelling didn't engage me enough to really make me remember the story. And I know what you're wondering, what's that got to do with Dumbledore? And the one bit I will remember of the story, other than the climatic ending, which I will remember, the only other bit I remember is there's a discussion between Mira and Shelley when they're out gardening. There's a sort of general philosophical discussion, and Shelley argues that Dumbledore is wrong when he says to Harry that you have a choice, Harry, either do the right thing or the easy thing. And she makes a fairly articulate point that actually generally we don't know what the right thing is. And we don't really know whether it was the right thing to do or not until we see the results of what our actions took place, even if we think it is the right thing at the time. And we're much clearer generally on what the wrong thing is. And it can therefore be a case of we know what our principles are and what the wrong thing to do in that scenario is. So really it should be that Harry sometimes makes a decision between doing the wrong thing or the hard thing, not the right thing and the easy thing. And that will stick with me. That was an interesting political discussion, philosophical discussion that took place. So that will actually stick with me. The rest of this book probably won't, and that's disappointing. But we move on. There's plenty of other books to read. I haven't read her Booker Prize-winning one, The Luminaries. I haven't read that yet. I probably will pick it up and read it. But if you have read it, let me know. Is it worth picking up and reading? I think most of her books are quite slow-paced, and writing a slow-paced thriller is challenging. As I say, the second half was very much thriller. The first half felt more filler.